On this episode of Locked On Angels, the Angels win the series against the Mariners, and we're going to laugh and laugh and laugh. And we'll talk about other stuff, but we'll laugh. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It must suck to lose to a sucky team. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all this Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with John and I and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right stay can make you a fan in any city. Check out Booking.com for your stay today.
Happy Wednesday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
We've been fans of this team for our whole lives. It's our third season here at Locked On Angels, talking Angels baseball with you Monday through Friday, every single weekday. On today's show, Mike, we're talking about Trey Gregory-Alford, that he signed with the Halos. It's official. We're talking about what GM PM should do and follow in Cubs president Jed Hoyer's footsteps about what he said about the Cubs. So we're looking forward to that conversation. But first, Mike, we need to recap the game against the Mariners. I'm looking on the video side. I'm looking down at the comments section. I don't see... it's awfully quiet down there. I don't see any Mariner fans giving us grief, considering the Angels have won 5 in a row against the Mariners, the Mariners, if you will, because that's how the Angels ended up winning that game. Was a couple of miscues out there, Mike. You know, before we continue, let me just
come on, get it all out.
I'm just like swimming in the Schadenfreude to watch them miss a pop up between Cal Raleigh and the first baseman they had last night, and the crowd boo, to watch the end of the game with Roansy Contreras, of all people, finish out the game, and the Mariners fans boo their team, to hear Scott Service say that he was sick of watching his team on Monday against the Angels. Oh, chef's kiss. The Schadenfreude is delicious. And you know what's funny? Let me continue here. You know what's funny? As a baseball fan, I enjoy seeing up-and-coming teams do really well and get some new blood into the playoffs and whatnot. So when the Mariners were on the come-up a couple of years ago, I was actually kind of like, I know there are rivals, but at least it's somebody new. I felt that way about the 2015 Astros before we found out they all cheated in 2017. It was like, hey, cool, a new team, young guys, this is exciting. But it's the fans, Michael. The fans turned me against the Mariners. I enjoyed watching the Rangers win the World Series. First-time champions. Our friend Bryce Patrick from Locked On Rangers, fantastic guy. Orioles, they're an exciting young team. Fun to watch. I love it. I love good baseball, and I love watching young teams soar. That's why I think this season has been, in terms of the wins and losses, not been fun. But to watch these young guys develop has sure been fun. But man, it was 2 years ago when they made the playoffs after 21 years that the hubris got to them, Michael. Schadenfreude and hubris. That's what I want everybody to remember. Okay, rant over. Let's talk about the game.
Those are big words, Johnny. I'm looking them up. Hold on 1 second. All right. It was a pitcher's duel last night. Through 5 innings, both Soriano and Logan Gilbert from the Mariners looked really good. Angels got their first hit and first base runners in the 5th inning. Logan O'Hoppe singled, and then Sean O'Well followed with a second hit for the Halos. And then with 2 on and 2 out, Brandon Drury grounds softly to third base, and the throw was low, and Brandon Drury was safe at first on the error. So the bases are loaded for Mickey Moniak, and he draws a 4-pitch walk, John.
Yes, sir.
He's doubled his walk rate so far this season. In fact, said after the game when he was being interviewed by Erica Weston, he said, I just wanted to continue to double. I want to continue to get better. He said, I'm young, and I have hopes that I'm going to be around for a really long time. And so you're starting to see what consistent at-bats can do for these players, like a Joe Adell and like a Minnie Moniak. So That's a hint. That's a clue. That's a megaphone. Consistent at bats.
Did you say Mini Moniac? Is that what you said? Mickey Moniac, not Minnie.
Mickey.
Yeah,
Did I say Minnie?
You said Mini
Go back
Moniac.
and listen. Angels finally got their first run because that was a bases loaded walk. Then Zach Neto bunts, and the throw home gets past the catcher. Now, it looked like Gilbert thought maybe they needed to tag the runner instead of just tagging the base. So he throws it over the catcher. Then rounding third, Brandon Drury gets obstructed by Rojas, and that costs the Mariners another run. So the Angels get 3, and then Adele strikes out for the first out. Then Rendon grounds out to third. That was the second out, no runner score. Then Rengifo does what Rengifo has done all season long, John. He goes oppo field, left center, drives into Angels lead 5-0. Nice to have Rengifo back.
Yeah.
Is he staying or is he going? What you got?
The Red Sox have interest in Rengifo. That's the report going around right now. They need some infield help. They have somebody kind of temporarily at first base while Tristan Casas works his way back, but they want a right-handed bat. And we all know Rengifo from the right side is powerful Rengifo. Now, that's usually against lefties, so we don't really know his righty-righty splits. But, yeah, Mike, there's less than a week until the trade deadline here, and so it's coming down to the wire, and here's what I'm so worried about. After last night's win, well, let me double-check here because I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I believe the A's beat the Astros 8-2.
Yep.
So that means the Angels are 8 games back of first place.
It's a mirage. It's an illusion.
Yes,
it's
an
oasis. Right?
It's just like it's exciting.
Yeah.
But I really, really, really hope Perry Minasian and Artie Moreno don't think that they can go for it, right? They're not gonna do that, are they? They need to trade everybody they can trade or people are willing to take, right?
Yeah. Well, we need to talk about that in the second segment. Let's talk about Soriano for a moment, John. He had one of his better outings this season. Almost made it 8 innings, but went 7 2/3, 3 hits, 1 earned, 3 walks, 5 Ks. Really was consistent and concise in this game. Ooh. And liked that you threw out some words, so I had to throw out some words.
Hubris, Schadenfreude.
Consistent and concise. This is your pronunciation episode of Locked On Angels. I really liked what we saw from Soriano. A lot of ground ball outs. Was very good with keeping his pitch count low, and it was really that last walk that did him in. He left in the middle of the 7th, and Ben Joyce comes in. He ends up walking Cal Raleigh, which I think was a good decision. He pitched to him, but Cal Raleigh's their only really big offensive threat in that lineup.
I was going to say, was that a decision? Because he looked pretty wild to me. He was not throwing that fastball in the strike zone.
That's true.
So he did, and in the next batter, he started using the splinker. Yeah, and was fortunate enough to get, I believe it was Polanco to fly out for the last out. So yeah, that was a moment for us.
I wonder if it was intentional, unintentional situation, right? Like, I'm not going to throw the splinker because I don't want to miss in the middle of the zone, and Cal Raleigh could jack one. And so I'm going to throw my fastball, see if this guy can hit it. I'm not going to hit it in the zone, although he did look a little bit out of control. Either way, I think it was a good move because it's the only guy in the lineup that really is a threat.
Mm-hmm. Especially from the left side too. Yeah. If Cal Raleigh's hitting from the left side, that's his power side. Kind of like Rengifo, his power side is the right side. So that's the situation there with Cal Raleigh.
16 consecutive innings now for Ben Joyce, Johnny, scoreless, hasn't given up a run. Guy's been dominant coming out of the bullpen. And then I really like Roansy Contreras in the latter part of the game. I know that they've tried him out as a starter. John, they mentioned last night that he's 24. I don't know why it didn't dawn on me that he was just 24, but he does have some good stuff and has looked good at the end of the game. I wonder if there might be a pivot to have him, since they moved Soriano to the starting rotation, if Contreras might be somebody that, especially if they do trade some players, he might be somebody that can come in 8th, 9th inning and shut the game down. What do you think?
He's got the velo for it, Mike. And so I think that that's a perfect situation for a closing guy. The truth is, with Contreras, when he was a starter / opener or maybe a long relief guy, those first 2 innings, now don't quote me on this, but the eye test tells me, and I would need to go back and actually look at the game logs, but those first 2 innings, even just his first inning out on the mound, usually pretty good. He's not giving away the game the first go around. It's usually by the third inning or so, or maybe halfway through the second, that he starts to have trouble. So if he's going out there an inning at a time at the end of the game, I think that's a reasonable jump for him to make. Maybe that's his spot in the future, especially if the Angels are considering trading a lot of those relievers that they have available to trade. Then we could see more Contreras at the end of the game, kind of like we've seen Carson Fulmer do well without an opener or not in long relief. Let him start a game and just see if he can get to 5 innings. And he's gotten to the 5th both times. He's not gotten through 5, but that's also kind of a pivot. This is the time to figure that stuff out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if they do trade players and they're going to think about bringing up some of the AA guys, I think you still want to be competitive. And so having a Ben Joyce and a Contreras at the end, at the back of the bullpen, might be a really smart move for them, because these two guys have been there before. Contreras got a save not too long ago, and Ben Joyce, I think, will transition nicely into the closer role, whether it be this year or whether it be next year. I think he could be a really great closer for the Halos. And the guy's been consistent. I love that he's been out there for multiple games, multiple innings. I did think it was a good move, him getting out of that bases loaded jam and then not bringing him back out for the 9th, because I think you're saving him for a potential game today, because that way you can use him again and he hasn't thrown all of his bullets the night before.
Yeah, and you know what else I would take into consideration with Ben Joyce is, how are you using him? Are you starting him out with a clean inning versus a situation where, Cal Raleigh could put up 3 with one swing of the bat? That's a situation I'm curious about. Again, got to look back at the game logs and see where Ben Joyce has thrived the most. But I feel like a situation with Ben Joyce that would serve him well is getting the clean inning and letting him create his own trouble and get out of his own trouble, versus being the guy who has to bail out somebody like a José Soriano, like we saw last night. So all of that to say, I think Ben Joyce, you might consider letting him be that 8th inning guy, that 9th inning guy, clean inning. Don't have him be the guy who comes in and gets the last out, because maybe he's not experienced enough for that yet. Maybe. Yeah. So maybe that's why he was a little wild. I mean, look, the game was really on the line, and you want those situations as a young guy.
Yeah.
But I think maybe he might not be ready for that yet, but we'll see. We'll see if that is the case or not.
What I really liked about this game last night, Angels win 5-1. It was a game where it wasn't like one player had multiple hits to knock in a bunch of runs and carried the team. They really nickel and dimed their runs in that inning, took advantage of errors. They took advantage of hitting weakly and moving runners over, and they were able to score on some really good plays. They had the bases loaded walk. So I really liked that it was a team effort in scoring all those runs, the 5 runs in that inning.
Did you see the way they changed their approach against Logan Gilbert too? I mean, he sat down 12 in a row, right? Was it 12? 12 in a row.
It was 12 in a row.
And they were working counts against Logan Gilbert. But then they come back out there for the 5th and they ambush him, right? First pitch, they're swinging at it. O'Hoppe, Shonawell, those guys are all swinging at the first pitch, ambushing him. And so I like the way that you saw the Angels make a pivot there. Shows a lot of growth for these young guys. Shows that the coaches are paying attention and communicating that to the young guys. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels are back at it today, 12:40 Pacific time. It's an early one, so make sure you catch that every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the XXM app. Just search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels, what did Jed Hoyer say about the Cubs that GM Perry Minasian needs to say about the Halos? We're going to tell you all about that coming right up.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by our new everydayers, Booking.com. It's summertime. School's coming back soon. You still have time to travel, maybe even follow your favorite baseball team, the Halos, wherever they're going, with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, so much more on Booking.com. You just might find your perfect stay, even if it's in Seattle, even if it's in another rival city, from hotels that overlook stadiums, which, by the way, I would love to do that. I'm looking into that. I think my dream is to stay and overlook, and I want to go to Cubs Stadium and sit in the far bleachers so I can just see what's happening and like stay in a hotel. That just is my dream.
You want to watch real baseball, but you want to watch it on a couch. That's what you're trying to say.
I want to put my feet up. I want to have a cup of chai. I want all of that. So they've got hotels that overlook stadiums, family-friendly resorts. Booking.com has so many choices across the United States this MLB season, and the right stay can make you a fan in any city. So don't do this alone. Let Booking.com help you out. You can book on their website, Booking.com, or through their app, Booking.com. Booking.com. Booking.yeah.
And today's show is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. It's America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. Now, you're not playing against all those 5 million members like I am in my regular fantasy team. This is everyday fantasy. It's the most fun, exciting way to get in on the action with all your favorite sports and players. Doesn't just have to be baseball. You can get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash this summer with Prize Picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 so you can pay for that hotel stay and watch a game from your couch. You can watch Team USA rack up all the gold medals this summer. How about that? You can make Prize Picks lineups in just about 60 seconds, whether it's basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, all of it. Baseball, of course. You can pick more or pick less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. So download the app today, enter our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, that's code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, all one word, for a first deposit match of up to $100. Join Prize Picks today. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, and you're listening to Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Now make your second listen Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel, programmed just for you every single day, bringing you the biggest stories in sports. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube, or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And the Angels are your team every single day. They're playing the Mariners at 12:40 today, and you can catch every single pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Mike, the famous poet and songwriter Lisa Loeb once said, "You say, I only hear what I want to." And we're talking about what Perry Minasian should say.
Yep.
And the reason why this conversation came up is because Cubs president Jed Hoyer made it official on Monday that barring any big winning streak, anything the team does at the trade deadline will be to help them in the future. I love this because you and I have been begging for this since before the season started.
Yep.
Clarity, direction, strategy, a plan, right? Look, The Angels came out of the gate, said, we're going to be competitive. Now, about 10% of us bought that statement, right? You and I especially went, 500 at best.
Yeah.
If things go right. But at least that was no, that's our intention. That's what we want to do. Now, did they follow that up with a good offseason?
No.
Not really.
No.
And so, it's talking out both sides of your mouth by saying, yeah, we're going to be competitive, but we're not going to spend any money.
Right.
And that's kind of what happened this offseason. At least they said something. But since then, it's been radio silence, right? So we have no idea what the plan is, what the direction is, what the clarity is. And that's why this was so refreshing to hear from Cubs president Jed Hoyer. I tweeted the other day that when the LA Times writer wanted to speak to Artie Moreno about the direction of the club, and people said, well, why does Artie have to talk to the media? Why does that make him a bad person? Because of this exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's the Cubs president. He's not the owner, right? It's not the guy in charge of the whole team, but it's the Cubs president, and it's Perry Minasian's position, essentially. The Angels don't have a president of baseball operations. They just have a general manager, and that's Perry Minasian. So at the very least, it would be nice to hear from Perry Minasian, but he also can't answer questions about his own contract, right? And we're still wondering what the case is with that. So let me bring it back to Perry Minasian. I do love that Jed Hoyer made it clear for Cubs fans, for the team, for the players, that this is what we're going to do at the trade deadline. So why isn't this something that Perry Minasian would do. What do you say?
I just think that the philosophy inside the Angels organization is say what the man wants us to say. Say what he has told us from the beginning. And I wonder if what they say out loud is what they say to Artie. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if what they say out loud is, yeah, Artie, we're going to try to win, right? And so I don't know if you're fooling anybody. I don't know if you're letting the left hand know what the right hand is doing. But this would be something that I think would fire up the troops, man. I think it would fire up the fans. I think the fans would be like, yes, because everybody's like, I don't know if they're going to actually do that. I don't know if they're actually going to make trades. I don't know if they're actually going to make the moves that they need to make. And there's a nervousness about that. In fact, Sam Blum was on Foul Territory just the other day, and he said that the Angels have always done kind of this thing the last 10 years or more than that. Like, here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to approach it. And it's not been successful, and yet the narrative doesn't change. And so either they're doing something behind the scenes but publicly saying something different, or they're just fooling themselves.
Now, I am encouraged by the fact that there was an ESPN article from Jeff Passan. Some of the names that were among the possible trade candidates were not just ones that we would obviously want, right?
Yeah.
We think, you and I think, that they can go beyond the Carlos Estevez and the Luis Garcia, those expiring deals at the end of the season.
Yeah.
The Angels could go beyond that with Tyler Anderson. Now, Taylor Ward's kind of a question mark because I think people have cooled off on him.
Yeah.
But you think about somebody like, you mentioned it earlier, Luis Rengifo. Is he going to be here in a week? Well, I say the Angels need to extend him, but if they don't, they absolutely should trade him because of the years of control, and he's playing the best he's ever played in his career.
Right.
So I was encouraged by Jeff Passan's article because he went beyond the Estevez's and the Garcias. He mentioned the same people we mentioned: Anderson, Ward, Rengifo. Mike, he even mentioned Reed Detmers, which is something you and I have brought up before, where it was a situation of you don't need to trade Reed Detmers, but you could listen on Reed Detmers because if the package is good enough, then you would definitely be all about moving him. I know that would be waving the white flag on Reed Detmers and saying, yeah, we kind of failed this guy. Like, he didn't develop under us. At the same time, one of the reasons why you and I brought up Reed Detmers is, does he fit into a competitive window for the Angels? Realistically, will Reed Detmers be here when the Angels are finally ready to compete again? That was another question we had. So I guess I am encouraged by the fact that somebody out there is reporting that the Angels might consider moving beyond those expiring contracts. Now, you had a point to make, didn't you?
But I just want to respond with this. But why do we have to be super sleuths to figure that out? Why can't we hear that from, right? I want to hear that from my GM. And I don't think that is putting himself in a bad position when it comes to trades. I think that because Jed Hoyer is a smart guy. The guy has been successful.
The business of, like, they don't want to expose their plan. What plan? They don't have a plan. Get out of here with that nonsense. They don't want to lose their leverage. They have part of the plan. They've got no hand, Mike. They've got no hand whatsoever.
Yeah. I do think that it's also important as we think about all of the trades that fans want the Angels to make. We do have to temper our expectations because you're not getting a haul for Matt Moore. You're not getting a haul for Luis Garcia. In fact, I think a reasonable return would be somebody that comes back over because you've traded Estevez and Luis Garcia. I think some of those guys are plus ones. I think that they're going to go with somebody so that they can get a nice return. If you trade Rengifo, you're probably going to get some good players back. I would guess that. But if you add Rengifo and Luis Garcia, then I think that only ups the trade even more. But if you're doing a Matt Moore for somebody, you're not getting a top prospect. And so when somebody says they did trade all of these guys, you got to calm down there because they're going to get a Matt Moore, and then they'll probably get a guy who hasn't really been in the majors, kind of maybe been in the minors, kind of like Roansy Contreras, where you're just not sure where he fits and you're going to have to do some development. And the Angels have proven that they haven't really done well in development of those types of players.
Or even worse, our favorite player, cash considerations. That's what it might come down to with somebody like a Matt Moore or a Luis Garcia. So you're right. I think that they can be supplemental to the anchor pieces that the Angels have to trade this season.
Well, we heard that Mike Trout played last night, and he did leave the game with some knee soreness. He had one at bat, had 2 outs in the inning. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that perhaps if he's feeling okay, he might be back with the Halos this coming weekend. So you should go to the game and use Game Time to get to the game. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money with tickets. They can get you last minute deals. So if Trout does say, hey, I'm going to be there, and they announce that, so you can jump on the Game Time app, and they're going to save you 60% off. They have all sorts of deals on this app, exclusive in-app flash deals on select seats ahead of the game or whatever event you're going to. And they even have zone deals where you choose the section, Game Time chooses the seat, and then all-in pricing. I've talked about all-in pricing before. It's a great dad mode thing for me. It's a dad flex. You get to see what the cost is right up front. They show you where you're going to sit, and then they have the lowest price guarantee. They're going to credit you the difference if you find tickets in the same section, same row for less. They're going to give you 110% of the difference. And then they've got flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So you can win with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of it. Download Game Time right now. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, Locked On MLB, $20 off your first purchase. Download the app today, the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Mike, I've got 3 words for you. Not Schadenfreude, not hubris. No. Trey Gregory-Alford. That's a name that Locked On Everydayers are going to want to familiarize themselves with. Yeah. They made a deal with TGA. The Angels were able to sign their 11th round pick. He signed for, listen to this, $1,957,500. That's the most ever in the player pool era after the 4th round. He was one of the top prep pitchers in the country. He did drop in the draft because he was committed to the University of Virginia. So there was a question mark about whether he was actually going to sign with the team or not. He is like a top 10 talent, Mike. And so for him to get drafted in the 11th round was a result of him being a commit to college. Yeah.
In fact, he was in the top 100. Like they put him in the top 100 players.
I think he was 45 or so.
The Angels got him in the 11th round. Yeah. John. That's huge. Huge for the Angels.
He spoke about being drafted and shared what it felt like on draft day. He said, I remember like the 4th or 5th round, I was like, man, I guess like 4 or 5 or 6 will be done. And I guess school might be the best option for me. And I knew I had already a good chance there. Like even if I went there for 3 years, I could up my draft stock, face better competition than here in the Springs, which is Colorado Springs, and have a good 3 years there. But a call from his agent changed his mind, and he was ready for the opportunity of a lifetime, right, Mike?
Yeah. Trey said that his agent called him and said, do you want this? And he's like, I'm like, let's do it. So the agent actually said that they're a go-to organization when it comes to pitching as well. And he said, and they're going to move you up quickly. And so that was a deciding factor. And so he said they came in with an offer of $1.5 million. And Trey says, I was like, nah, that's not enough. And so then they came back and they upped it again. And they ended up with almost $2 million, which was great. And then they gave him a lot of money for school as well. And they said they're going to pay for school whenever he went. So it definitely kind of made the deciding factor for him. And then Trey said there was a special moment between him and his nephew. He told his nephew, Tegan, who's almost 10 years old, that he's going to be an Angel. And he ran in, told his mom, a lot of tears. They recorded it. He said it was a really cool reaction. So Trey's set to head to the Angels facility later this week, where he's going to begin his journey in baseball. Johnny, do you like the prep arms? Do you believe prep arms like Gregory-Alford is better for the Halos organization right now? Or are you more of like, give me some of those college guys and get them up to the majors right now?
Oh no, I'm all about the prep school arms. Listen, these are guys coming out of high school. This is who you save your money for. That's why they offered him the overslot amount. And I also want to clarify, on top of our conversation yesterday about the 3 picks who got $1,000, the Angels aren't saving money in the player pool. They can't take that money with them. They can't transfer it to the next year or anything like that. So anything they don't spend just doesn't get used, Mike. And so they make moves like this so that they can get guys like Trey Gregory-Alford. And so for me, to get a high school guy that you can develop, that you can work with from day one, I think is huge. I don't think the Angels do it enough. And it's a nice, different direction. Remember Victor Rojas saying, like, you guys got to do something different.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing doesn't work.
Right.
And so this to me, and this goes back to Caden Dana last year. Not last year, 2 years ago he got drafted. This is a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And the Angels have plenty of college arms. So for me, it's not a matter of, I want to see more college arms. Why'd they take a high school guy? No, I want to see these high school guys, especially if they're in the top 100 draft picks.
Yeah.
And they end up with the Angels. This is a really huge get for the Halos, in my opinion.
Yeah, more of guys like Jared Weaver-esque rather than, and no offense, but Griffin Canning. Griffin Canning was a college guy who came up, and I think that's what you get with most college guys. Not all college guys, but that's what you get with most college guys.
Weaver was a dirtbag, though.
He was a dirtbag, yes. But my point is, I would want to see somebody like a Weave more than somebody like a Canning. And what the Angels have drafted in the last few years have been more Canning-esque than Weaver-esque. Even though Weaver was a dirtbag, he was somebody that was ready to go, was fired up, was a good pitcher, and then he developed into an even better pitcher. And so I think Caden Dana fits into that category. I think TGA fits into that category. And I think that this is finally a good direction for the Angels to say, hey, we're going to let them really develop and really figure out their stuff in the minor leagues and then bring them up when they're ready. And I think that that's part of the issue with Reed Detmers, is that Detmers was brought up because it happened out of necessity. They needed his arm. It wasn't because he was killing it in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
They just needed an arm in the rotation, and he's the best option that they had. And that's why he's stuck, John. That's why he's there in the rotation and why he was there the last couple of years, because who in the minor leagues was better than Reed Detmers? Nobody, right?
Yeah. That's why that statement from his agent about, like, they're going to move you up quickly and that makes me nervous, because if this guy's coming out of high school, he's 18 years old or so, he should not be up in the majors up until what, Mike, 22?
Unless he earned it.
Sure.
Unless he's crushing it. But that's few and far between. Not too many pitchers do that out of high school.
Not everyone is Paul Skeens, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That's just the truth of the matter. And even when you're coming out of high school, you're growing and developing, and your body is changing as well. So you might not even be the same kind of pitcher that you thought you'd be coming out of high school. So this is, again, it's a different direction. I think that it shows patience, because yes, do the Angels need arms right now? Absolutely. But can they take their time with somebody like Trey Gregory-Alford? Absolutely. And that's the path that I hope that they take moving forward. I got to laugh because everybody's like, I thought you guys liked Weaver. Why are you calling him a dirtbag? That was the college team he played for. Yes, that's the thing there. So again, Mike, this to me is a great get. This is why you save the money that you do. That's why you go under slot for Christian Moore, because Connor Griffin went over slot.
Yep.
I think what was it, $1 million? Don't quote me on that, but it was a lot.
Yep.
And it was more than the pick was worth, and rightfully so. Connor Griffin's gonna be a star. But I think going under slot for Christian Moore and some of the other under slot picks that the Angels made, totally necessary if you want to get a guy like this. And I just hope, Mike, that they recognize what they have and they don't mess it up. Don't screw it up, Angels. Let's do this right. Let this guy develop. Let him cook. Let him marinate. I'm going to say all the things that somebody in our comment section hates when we say that. Let him do all those things and let him develop on a pitcher's timeline is what I think the Angels need to do.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Angels play the Mariners 12:40 Pacific time today.
Mariners!
You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Hey, give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube, get in the comment section, and hit that like button and subscribe button on the way down there. It's the best way to get into the conversation with us. Mike, what do we have on deck for Thursday's show?
Well, we're just less than a week away from the trade deadline. So
boy,
we were on a different universe, a different plane last year at this time and thinking about trades. And the Angels made some trades. And so John and I are going to share with you what happened to those guys. How are they doing? Where are they at? And are we heartbroken they're not on the Angels anymore? We'll give you an update on all of the players tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. We hope you'll come back and join us. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Thursday.
Laugh one more time.
That's hilarious. Seattle.